past Saturday night, I bought that guitar from Cory Wong 10 minutes before he performed this. I'm going to tell you the story, but first let's learn how to play his awesome solo from Gumshu as performed here at the concert. That's my cell phone footage. So I'm going to play through the solo again, full speed with close-ups of my hands, using Cory's guitar, well now my guitar, and then I'm going to play it at 60%, and then I'm going to show you how to play it and how to take some of those riffs and make them your own. All right, let's check it out. Hey everybody, so a few days ago I went to the last night of the Cory Wong and the Wong Tones tour here in Austin, Texas. He said he was selling the guitars from the tour since it's the last night. These are his new signature guitars. Pretty much everyone is identical. So toward the end of the first set, he made the announcement. And so I went to the merch booth, made my way, and they were like, we just sold the one from his first set. This was during the intermission. And his sound guy was there bringing the guitar, and he said, do you want to buy the one from the second set? And I said, yes. I bought it right there. I didn't get the first one, but I got the second one. And then there was a third one that he didn't use that night. But the thing was, as soon as the second set started, I could just see in the lighting, like, oh wow, that one has a very distinct red streak across the fretboard. So I knew, I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep my eyes out for that. When the sound guy comes and he says, here's the guitar, I'm gonna know. Right? So sure enough, he comes and I saw that. So being I bought the guitar after everyone let out, they let me stay there with the guitar. They said, Cory will come out and he'll sign it and you could talk to him. Super cool guy. He's such a guitar nerd. He opened the case. He was like, oh, you got this one. You're lucky. This is the one with the really cool fretboard. He said he loved this one and it was hard for him to give this one up because he really liked the fingerboard. And we talked a little bit about the process and he said how he had some prototypes and you know, went back and forth a few times to get it just right. And now that it's dialed in, this is just the guitar that he uses. So at the time I bought this guitar, I was in a Gary, you can't buy any more guitars mode because right now I have a surplus of guitars I need to sell. I always buy and sell, and I've been procrastinating selling. But I couldn't resist because, first of all, I've had my eye on the Cory Wong Strat since it came out. I love his tone, I read about the specs, sounded awesome, and he was selling it at retail price, which is $2,000, that's pricey, but no tax, and it's his personally used touring guitar. So to me, that was a no-brainer. If this is a guitar that I want, I'm never gonna have the opportunity again to actually buy one from Cory. To me, I just find that inspiring and super cool. It's great to have a guitar with a story. So I'm gonna keep it for a couple weeks and I'm either gonna sell off a couple of my other guitars, or I might even share this experience with someone else and sell this guitar if it ends up not being right for me. The only reason why it wouldn't be is that I'm used to really fat necks, fat vintage style necks. I hurt my hand a long time ago and I found that fat necks was more comfortable for my hand injury and I got used to them. This one, it's not super slim, it's actually slightly deeper with more shoulder than the typical thin Fender neck, but still it's significantly thinner than my vintage necks. But now that I've played it for like, I don't know, 4 hours, I would say, I'm like really digging this neck profile. So I was originally thinking, you know what, maybe I'll sell it to someone who's a huge fan. Enough already, Gary. You're droning on and on. You're so indecisive. Let's get into the lesson. But so let's learn the solo first, then we're gonna break it down, and then at the end, I'm gonna tell you all about my impressions of this guitar. What's cool about this experiment is I have Cory's guitar, his setup, Do I sound anything like Cory? I'm gonna try my best. So we'll get to see how much of Cory's tone is in the guitar and how much is in his fingers. Of course, I don't have his amp and stuff, but I think it's a really cool experiment. And then most importantly, we're gonna talk about how we can take these riffs, take these techniques, and make them our own, insert them into our own playing, use them as inspiration so that we're not just copying licks, we're taking elements of those licks and making them our own. And as always, if you want the tab to go along with this lesson, numbers on the lines with notation on the top, that's available for Pound Music patrons, and the link is in the description. All right, let's get into the lesson. So we've got a super funky take on a 1-6-2-5 progression. So in the key of C, C is 1, A minor is 6, 2 is D minor, and 5 is G. So that's kind of what the bass player is doing in a super funky way. I tried to imitate the bass player's groove. It's like right behind the beat, and it's hard to stay there. Like, I'm so used to staying right on the beat, but hearing a player that can really like hit that, oh, it was so cool. But so he's playing C, A, D, G. But the chords are C, A minor, D minor, G. But Cory's not really playing off the chord that much. He's really just kind of sitting in the C major pentatonic scale and just playing some classic riffs that just work over the whole progression. So he starts in pattern 4 over here. And he plays a classic lick, but with his fingers. Now, what's great about playing with the fingers, it gives you a lot of control over, how long a note rings out and making sure the adjacent strings aren't ringing out. So he goes, you can really kill the note by just putting your finger back on it. So I'm using my thumb, hammer on, then my index finger, then my thumb again. So that's a hammer on, and then slow bend on the second scale degree, bending it up to the third. So you're bending it up to this note. Real slow. And if you don't quite get up there, it still sounds good. Then to the root. Classic vibrato on that, so. And Cory does kind of the B.B. King style vibrato, which is using the neck as a fulcrum. Like that. Then classic lick to play in this pattern. With your ring finger, you bend up that same note. Then with your pinky, you play the note just beneath it, close, one string closer to the floor with your pinky. So now sometimes it sounds good to let those two ring out together like this. But he kills the first note. Then a classic blues riff right here. So we pick this one, drop it, pull off, and then next string with the second finger, we play the 14th fret. Then he goes back to these two notes, gives that one a little bend. And then gives each of these some good vibrato. Then drops it down. So the fingers is a big part of this sound here. The band was rocking loud and then the volume came down. Right? So everyone's just listening deeply, right? It's like, whoa, what's going on now? Okay, then all this time, he has the pick in his hand, kind of, you know, just holding it in his fingers. So I'm kind of just cupping it between my middle finger and my palm, like that. So it's just there. Then for the next phrase, when he goes, that's all picked and palm muted. So my palm is right where the bridge meets the strings. And he's kind of playing in double stops. So this is, now we're in pattern 1 of the C major pentatonic scale, 17th fret index finger, and then 20th fret pinky. On this guitar, it feels really comfortable because the neck, it's an even taper. It starts off, you know, normal, like a medium C, but it stays pretty much that way up the neck. It doesn't get too fat, but it's also not like really thin. I think it's slightly thicker than the classic modern Fender neck and a little more shoulder, so a little more of a D shape. I'm used to thick vintage necks on my guitar, so for me it's on the thin side. At first I was like, ooh, this is really thin, but now I'm realizing it's kind of in between a vintage and like a typical modern thin neck. Really comfortable. But the great thing is you could play up here as if you're down here. So what we're doing here is instead of going, we're going to play that in double stops. So you'll see he flattens out his fingers and allows himself to play 2 notes at a time using these pentatonic stacks. These notes stack up, so it sounds kind of funky to play them as stacks. Palm muted. I think he hits the low E string by accident. Maybe he did it intentionally, but it was hard for me to do it intentionally. So I just left it out in my rendition. He goes like that. Sounds cool. And if you want to see another great solo that I broke down, check out Isaiah Sharkey's solo on John Mayer tune, Belief. I made a fretLIVE, and he does all these double stop riffs. So I'll link that in the description as well.
So what's this, man?
Then he goes, nice little. Now right there, that's right out of a C chord. He's playing the 5th and the 3rd, sliding into it. Very bluesy. And then plays a C in the C shape. Like this, but up here. But he starts on the 3rd, 5th root, and just plays that little triad. So then he wiggles it a little bit. Then he puts the pick away, back in the hand, and goes. Same riff we did earlier, but he does this cool, like a paka. So he plucks with his thumb, say the G string, but no pitch. Might be my favorite part. Little detail that's so Cory Wong. Then does that riff again. So then he does the. So what's there is he's just going down the pentatonic scale and doing 3 hammer-ons on each string. But now he comes down to this sweet little 3x2 in pattern 3. Sweet little area in pattern 3. It's a great way to come lower out of pattern 4 is to slide into this 3x2. And I have a whole lesson on that concept called the 2x2, 3x2 method. I'll link in the description. So So he comes down to that 3x2, then goes to the next string closer to your nose. Now he goes to the major third of the C chord, to the fourth, right? Because here's our C. 1, 3, 5. So that one's a half step. Then he goes C, D, B flat, and the B flat is foreshadowing to what's about to come. Because then he goes, then they go to that chord, that flat 7 dominant chord. So that chord right there, I've actually never played this voicing just exactly like this. I either go like this or like this, but I like this. So it's root, third, flat 7, third. And I'm not sure if he's actually playing this third twice. He might just be going, you know, this, this, and this, and this, and then that one's just there for insurance. You know, you hit it if, I'm really not sure. It sounded like maybe he was just hitting the root, but he was grabbing the chord. But then later in the song it goes. And that's really it. So some tips for making it your own. What I learned from this, mixing dynamics, meaning loud and soft, mixing fingers with pick, the double stop riffs, I really love that. The staccato, short notes, you know. That space, leaving space, right? This cool riff. The hardest part for me was definitely going. Getting that clean. So I definitely have work to do in getting that even. Now you'll see Cory's technique, he's very flat fingered, almost like a Hendrixy kind of, he keeps a bar and a thumb over a lot when he's playing. So he's going, for me, I kind of like more fingertip instead of bar. But it's a good thing to practice to just work that muscle. So making it our own, you know, instead of maybe you start it the same way, you know. See, I'm just varying his riffs and making my own riffs. Then here, you know, just mess with that. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play a solo right now, and I'm just gonna use his ideas to play my own solo, and we'll see how it goes. And then I encourage you to try to do the same thing. I'm looping it and I'm workshopping those ideas. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this guitar. So man, this guitar is comfortable. Cory made the body slightly smaller, so I held it up against my Strat. So here's a regulation Strat right here. Okay, I'm gonna put these on the ground. So even though they look to be the same height and the same overall length, the nut is lower. The headstock is slightly modified. I believe it's stretched out a little bit so that the overall length is the same, but the nut is going to be slightly closer to your body. And that's achieved by making this a little shorter. So the distance between the bridge and the end of the body, I believe, is slightly less. So the body's a little more compact. It doesn't jet out quite as much. It's subtle. You might not even notice it. I really didn't notice it, but I do notice it when I'm standing up and it's strapped against my body. It just feels more comfortable. It just feels a little, sometimes Strats, especially for a skinny guy like me and Cory, can make us look, even smaller because it's got this big body. So this one, I feel like it fits my thin body a little bit better. It's got this really nice matte finish, which I like, especially for my videos because it doesn't reflect too much. Like I said, the neck, it's the modern D. It's got medium jumbo frets. They're not like, big railroad tracks. So it makes sliding and chording very comfortable, but they're also not super thin vintage style. I used to have a Music Man Cutlass. This neck reminds me a little bit of it, but it's probably slightly thicker here, but then narrower here. So it's got kind of an even taper. I believe it goes from about, let's say 0.82 to, I believe, like 0.89 or 0.88. So it's a very small taper, but it's got a little more shoulder and slightly more depth than just your typical Fender C shape. So if you like thick necks, you might not like this one. If you like medium necks, this will be slightly smaller than a medium neck. And if you like thin necks, this will be slightly thicker than a thin neck. So it's kind of in between like a medium and a thin, I would say, as an overall. What's great about it is you feel the same up here as you feel down here, which is nice. So even in this riff, it's a perfect example. Like playing this riff up here feels as comfortable as being over here. Now, what also makes it feel more comfortable is it's sculpted in the back. So it goes up on an angle and there's just some wood sculpted out over here, which makes it easy to grab. So it's a little bit easier to, like. Some other cool details, just looking at Cory's setup, he's got his pickups angled so that the treble side is closer and the bass side is further away from the strings. And I don't know if that's to blame or these awesome Seymour Duncan Clean Machine pickups, but compared to my other Strats, the one thing that this definitely is better at is balance between the strings. So like, and sounding great up the full range of the instrument. It's got a very even sound through all the registers. The other cool thing is this position 4 panic button, as Cory calls it. So, let's say you're getting really funky and you're in position 4, which is a great funk position, right? So here I am in position 4. And oops, I got out, pressed the panic button. I'm already there. So it's much quicker to press that than to find your 4 again, because you got to kind of be exact about it. So that's a really cool detail if you're into funk, which I love position 4 for rhythm, funky guitar. I play in a cover band that does mostly R&B, so this is actually ideal because that happens to me sometimes. It's a love-hate thing on a Strat. It's great to have that easy access, and you could do cool things like, but sometimes you hit it unintentionally. So this solves that problem if you mostly live in position 4. So yeah, basically the Cory Wong Strat, it's like an Ultra Stratocaster, except it's got Seymour Duncan Clean Machines, more classic style Alnico pickups for a more classic tone instead of the noiseless. And the body is slightly smaller. Like I said, I don't know what else is different. Obviously the button, the Ultra I think has a 2-point tremolo. This has a vintage. It's springed hard to the body. This, I could barely move this. I think he's got 4 springs in the back. His tech might have even made it tighter to get a little more tension on it. It also comes with, I've got the case with all the case candy, which has little strap locks it comes with, and also like a scrunchie to go over the springs to prevent that reverb sound from the springs. So cool little touches. The cool thing is that this is now Cory's main guitar. So his number 1 is a Highway 1 Strat that he got when he was younger. And with this, he did the modifications that he would have loved to have on his original, but retained some of the things, the color, the matte, translucent, the trem style, the double string tree thing to get a little more tension over the nut, which could give you a little more sustain or a different kind of a tone, and slightly modified the neck shape. And so he basically just built similar to John Mayer. John Mayer plays his signature guitar on stage. Looks like Cory, same deal. He's just got a few of them that he brings on tour, and he doesn't have to, worry about his number 1, and he can just grab any of them, have his tech set them all up the same way, and they're basically identical. And also locking tuners. And there's just kind of like a printed Cory Wong signature. I got the real one though. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Happy playing. It's Thanksgiving week right now, so have a great Thanksgiving. Also, I've got some Black Friday sales, 20% off all my courses. If you're watching this in the future, don't wait until next Black Friday. The courses are great. Enroll anytime. All right, everybody. Happy playing. I'll see you next time. Before I go, I'd like to extend a huge thank you to the following upper-level POW Music patrons: William Creighton, Andrew Vogel, Chris Watson, David Crawford, Derek Mickle, Don Stringham, Donald James Grass, Jake Martin, John Cushman, Joseph McCarthy, Kent Grissom, Lemuel Foston, Michael Varney, Randy Wallingford, Sam Juans, Scott Lee, Sean Ellis, Stephen Pisano, Trampus Thompson. Thank you guys so much, and thank you to all of the POW Music patrons that help make this content possible. Happy playing. I'll see you guys next time.